In this edition of Southern Newsweek, Invercargill's inner-city redevelopment and its last chance to flourish economically. Rubbish collection and a new landfill site for the city are up for discussion this year, and progress on a new sports facility in Arrowtown. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. Invercargill's inner-city redevelopment is its last chance to flourish economically, according to the organisation behind the project. HWCP Director Scott O'Donnell says spending and structure are key elements in preventing a downward spiral for Invercargill's economy.
The organisation behind Invercargill's inner-city redevelopment say completing the $200 million project is crucial for the city's economy. HWCP Director Scott O'Donnell provided a progress report on the project in a meeting on Monday evening, which included updated plans showing a complete overhaul of the city centre. O'Donnell said projects for the city had failed in the past, and the city centre redevelopment was the city's last chance.
I'm very confident, but at the same time, this is our last chance. The Winter Gardens project was 94, it failed. And we've seen nothing happen since. A town of our scale and also a town of our wealth. We've got $400 million of public capital in this town between what Holdco has, Invercargill, Licensing Trust, Community Trust. And if we can't find a way to give one, economic returns to shareholders, but also a return to the ratepayers of a place that's great to live, well, it's a bit sad, isn't it?
He said both spending and structure were required to ensure a lift in the city's economy.
I moved back to Invercargill in 1995, and I think it was the end of the last TY upgrade, and the place was starting to spiral downwards. It can't happen again. We've actually got to find a way through leadership, spending, structure to make sure it's a buoyant economy. And it is buoyant, just you can't tell.
He said the plans were in their final stages, and that once an anchor tenant was signed, the final touches would be made.
Well, we think they're 95% done. There'll be some small tweaks. If we have a tenant that wants this much space in that location, we can move things around, that's fine, But when it comes to the four walls, we're pretty set. A bit of tweaking to be done inside yet, but we're a long way down the discussion with national tenants. Again, nothing is signed up yet until the anchor says yes, but look, that's business.
HWCP hopes to lodge resource consent with the City Council by the end of July, with demolition expected to commence early next year. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Sonny Bill Williams is set to defy the odds and take to the field in the third test against the French in Dunedin this weekend. The midfielder has completed a remarkable recovery from knee surgery and is now in line to make his first test appearance of the year.
The smile says it all. After undergoing keyhole surgery on his knee last week, Sonny Bill Williams is back training with the All Blacks.
The doctor said it was a success. It was actually, a lot better than expected. And then coach turned to the doctor and said, well, is there a chance of playing in the third test or, being available for selection? Doc said, yeah, but he's got to come into camp. So he looked at me and said, you're in camp. So I rang my wife. I told her. She was a little bit upset because we planned things to do, but back in there.
The 32-year-old's remarkable recovery being just as much a surprise to coaching staff as it is to him.
Yeah, the key thing for him it was his first sort of full intensive workload today. He's had a good weekend where he's been worked pretty hard, but it's nothing like getting through a full-on training session, and then we'll just have a look at him the next 24 hours. But again, he's trending in a good spot.
The team for the third test is due to be named on Thursday, and whether Williams starts or comes off the bench will no doubt be debated over these next 24 hours. But if he does get a chance to run onto Forsyth Bar Stadium on Saturday, it will give the midfielder a chance to exorcise some of last year's Dunedin demons.
What's the worst thing that can happen, Probably last year's Bledisloe is probably the worst thing that can happen when I dropped the first 3 balls. But I'm still here, and I'm still smiling, and I'm still keen to give it a go. So I'm just keen to get out there. If that's starting, if it's off the bench, whatever, I'm just going to have a crack, bro.
Over 24,000 tickets to the match have already been sold, with the capacity for the test being 28,000. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Rubbish collection and a new landfill site for the city are up for discussion this year as the Dunedin City Council embarks on a major review of its refuse services. The council has announced it's looking at the feasibility of a new landfill site as the Green Island facility reaches the end of its life.
The Green Island landfill could soon be thrown on the scrap heap. The Dunedin City Council says it's set to come to the end of its useful life in the next 5 to 10 years.
The Green Island site will most likely remain as a transfer station, but the landfill element is something that we're investigating.
A possible replacement is a location called the Smooth Hill site on McLaren Gully and Big Stone Roads. It's been earmarked as a potential landfill site since the 1990s.
But nothing has yet been determined, and we'll be seeking a contribution of opinions from people who are affected by this and the wider community as a whole.
Relocating the Green Island landfill is part of a wider review of the Council's waste minimisation and management plan. They'll consult with the public over the coming months and years for their view of the city's future.
This is a long conversation that we'll be having with our residents and our businesses, and we want to get off on the right foot of beginning that with plenty of time so people will be able to contribute.
They're looking for ideas that meet waste minimisation needs now and over the next 30 years. The issue will be further discussed in a council meeting on June 26th. Jack Conroy, The South Today.
And a major milestone has been reached in the long-awaited Arrowtown Sports and Community Centre project. The roof has gone on the new $2.3 million facility at Jack Reed Park, more than a decade after the project was conceived.
Finally, some light at the end of a 10-year tunnel. The highly anticipated community sports centre in Arrowtown is on track for completion. The roof is now on, and what better way to mark the milestone than with a roof shout.
Got about 50 guests here, subbies and funders, media, councillors. It's a great day despite the temperature. It's good to get everyone gathered together and put faces to names that we've been dealing with over the last 10 years of this project.
The Arrowtown Rugby Club will be the anchor tenant at Jack Reed Park, but the $2.3 million building will also serve as a base for the Arrowtown Scouts and other community groups. Local councillors say it's been a labour of love.
It's been a long process, and it's great to come here, and this man might just come in and say a few words as well, just so that he gets in on the screen, because he's been a big part of it as well. Councillor Scott Stevens from Arrowtown, and this is a great site, Scotty, just seeing it out of the ground, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the proof of the need for it. Kids out here playing. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting it open.
The new centre will fit up to 160 people and include bar and kitchen facilities, changing rooms and function spaces.
It's really well designed, we're happy with everything that way. And just looking forward to it being open and functional for our probably Jubilee as our first big thing for the rugby club in April next year.
The building is set to be completed in the next couple of months with an upgrade to the playing field, the next project on the cards. In Arrowtown, The South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, the organisation behind Invercargill's inner city redevelopment will respect the city's history by retaining some heritage building facades. And a bit of a cheesy story, quite literally. Welcome back. The organisation behind Invercargill's inner city redevelopment will pay homage to the city's history by retaining some of the facades of its heritage buildings. HWCP unveiled plans for the $200 million project on Monday, which shows the redevelopment isn't entirely out with the old.
While it may look like a brand new Invercargill city centre, the plans for the inner city redevelopment show a tribute to the city's heritage. In a progress report on Monday, HWCP Director Scott O'Donnell showed plans to incorporate the facades of certain heritage buildings in the rebuild, as well as plans for new buildings with their own heritage vibe.
We've got a wonderful historic frontage on Esk, those two. We've got that Thompson building on Beauty and Beyond on Kelvin. And also what we've done with the new look on Tay is it looks like it's historic, because all of us like historic buildings. Also, we've got to find a way forward. It's a case of what we can do that's sympathetic and also using new materials to create things that look the right period.
O'Donnell said the company had been in discussions with Heritage New Zealand about the state of particular heritage buildings affected by the rebuild. He said they understood certain buildings were beyond repair.
The government life's held together with 4x2s and stroppers because one of the columns is cracked. And it's so full of asbestos and weeping, porous rebar, it's almost dangerous. So we've just got to go and deal with that. We work very closely with Heritage, and look, we had some very long, detailed discussions, but they understand the need to go and trigger. So it'd be great to keep everything, but it's not possible to.
Invercargill Deputy Mayor and Heritage Month Coordinator Rebecca Amonston said retaining the facades was a good compromise for the city's heritage buildings.
I think it's really great that there's been a compromise and that some of the heritage building facades are being retained, and I know that Heritage New Zealand has worked really closely with HWCP to help make that happen, so that's really fantastic.
O'Donnell said each facade would cost around $1.5 million and that retaining them for the rebuild was entirely subject to funding. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
And 4 Greymouth businesses are searching for new premises after fire ripped through the town's Indian restaurant and badly damaged a neighbouring block of offices. The Priya Indian restaurant was ravaged by the blaze, which is being treated as suspicious.
The blaze at the Priya restaurant on Greymouth's Tainui Street was attended by 65 firefighters and 8 appliances from as far afield as Hokitika and Blackpool. The majority of the restaurant was destroyed, although neighbouring commercial businesses managed to be saved. Police and fire safety officers are investigating, and the fire is being treated as suspicious.
Police and fire safety will be investigating that throughout the day. At this stage, like most fires, we treat it as suspicious until proved otherwise.
The building is a typical age of ones that have asbestos in them, and fire services will be treating it as such. The Priya restaurant is survived by a sister establishment in Hokitika. Greymouth for The South Today.
A Queenstown couple have been honoured by police for saving a jumpmaster's life following a tandem skydiving crash in Lake Wakatipu. The commendation also recognises the help given in the search for the tourist who disappeared as a result of the crash.
An appreciation of the effort you put into this.
Farmer Kate Rivy of Cecil Peak Station receiving a certificate of appreciation for the part she and her husband Philip played in a rescue back in January. Detective Sergeant Senior Malcolm Ingalls says the couple's quick response saved the life of one of the 2 skydivers who crashed into Lake Wakatipu on January the 15th.
Kate was at a boat immediately. They were on the lake within minutes of that call going out, and there was no doubting in my mind they saved the life of the jump master. If they hadn't got there and worked as quickly as they did, we would have had 2 bodies in the lake.
In the days that followed, the couple loaned the barge they use for their farm to help with the search for the body of the other skydiver, Tyler Nee.
We had the dive squad down here for about 10 days. They had that barge on the water for us from morning to dusk, meaning they couldn't do their own work. Phil had to pilot the barge every day. So the farming work went to the back burner really, and Kate was left to run the farm on her own for those 10 days.
The couple are being held up as a good example of Queenstown's community spirit.
Good people make a good community, and I think we're really lucky to have that here in Queenstown, because I saw the support around that whole thing with restaurants offering vouchers for the family, accommodation. That whole coming together was amazing, but the Rivers really brought that to the fore with the assistance they gave.
Tyler Nee's body was never found. While the search was underway, his family expressed thanks to the Rivies for their help with the search. Queenstown for The South Today.
And a bit of a cheesy story next. The All Blacks are in town ahead of their clash with the French team this weekend, and the city decided to pit 2 delicacies against each other.
Which is better, the cheese roll or the crock? That was the question being asked of former All Blacks Case Muse and Tom Donnelly today. As the city gears up for the All Blacks test against the French this weekend, it was time to decide whether the southern sushi or the French croque was the tastier.
These ones won the prize as the best cheese roll in New Zealand, and I'd have to agree, they are fantastic.
Yep, very good cheese roll.
The cheese rolls are the product of award-winning cheese roll maker Joy Jones. She says there's no secret recipe, although there is one secret ingredient.
White bread, the usual, evaporated milk, Maggi soup, but yeah, just one wee extra thing I do there. I can't let out.
The All Blacks will be looking for their own secret ingredient this Saturday when they tackle the French. Muse is hoping the crowd at Forsyth Bar Stadium will be shown a better spectacle than last weekend's match at the Cake Tin.
Well, I just hope we can finish 80 minutes with 15 on both sides and have a bit of a contest. So let's see what the French actually have. I don't think we've actually seen what they've got.
But until then, he's happy to keep chowing down on the cheese rolls and let the All Blacks take care of business. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, the artificial sports turfs at Logan Park are a step closer to becoming a reality, and the formerly homeless student dedicating his studies to helping New Zealand's homeless. The artificial sports turfs at Logan Park are a step closer to becoming a reality following a healthy cash injection. The lottery's significant project fund has handed over a cheque for nearly $900,000 to Football South, which they say will be a game changer for the city.
Kicking off a new era for Southern football. Football South have just been given a cash boost from the lottery's significant project fund to the tune of $890,000. The money means 2 new artificial pitches can be built at Logan Park, much to the delight of the football community.
You know, it feels like we've just scored a goal at the World Cup or even won the World Cup. You know, it's that exciting. Yeah.
They've now raised the $3.9 million they need to get the project up and running. Along with the lottery's cheque, there have been contributions from the likes of FIFA, the Dunedin City Council and the Otago Community Trust.
We've seen enormous growth in the numbers of people participating in football and the related activities like futsal, and so, you know, just demonstrating that there was a real need for the facility.
And while Football South have led the project, they say the whole sporting community is set to benefit.
Having 2 fully lit pitches is going to enable us to do games and events under lights, which is something that we struggle with at the moment. And really it's just going to really open up the sport in the city for lots of new opportunities.
But it won't just be the top dogs that get to use the facility. Junior footballers are also set to benefit, meaning the occasional weekend off from the mud baths they usually play on.
It puts us in a similar situation to other centres in New Zealand, so it brings us into the modern era.
Kicking off a new era for Southern football. Football South have just been given a cash boost from the lottery's significant project fund to the tune of $890,000. The money means 2 new artificial pitches can be built at Logan Park, much to the delight of the football community.
You know, it feels like we've just scored a goal at the World Cup.
And finally, a Southern Institute of Technology student is dedicating his studies to helping homeless people nationwide. Fashion design student Simon Edwards is on a mission to give some comfort and safety to those living on the streets.
Invercargill student Simon Edwards knows what it's like to live rough. After around 3 years of living on the streets in Australia, Edwards found a job and earned enough income to move to Invercargill to begin his mission of helping the less fortunate.
What I've tried to do is make it like a normal men's jacket, like with a big collar. They can connect together like with Velcro to cover your mouth and that sort of thing. It's got a hoodie that you can pull over to protect your head and that from the weather. And then I thought I might as well go one a little bit further and put like a foldable sleeping bag that you can pull out from the back of the jacket and you sort of hop in it. It's just like a sleeping bag really.
Before joining the SIT fashion design course, Edwards had never touched a sewing machine. Now he's adding the finishing touches on the first prototype for his jacket. He said one of the hardest factors of homelessness was facing extreme weather, and addressing that issue alone could change things significantly for those on the streets.
If you're warm, then you've got a warm body, you know, then you're able to move around, you can get to places, you can go and see people, or you can physically make it to an institution if you like, or a homeless organisation. Yeah, you're thinking well, you're positive.
While Edwards has big plans, he said he can't even afford his own sewing machine and will need support to fund the project. But he said the idea has been well received.
From the impressions I'm getting from the people who are actually in those appropriate things that I need to go to, are taking me on face value, man, and they're actually listening. And that's super positive.
With his fashion design certificate coming to an end, Edwards said he will be applying for scholarships to continue the work towards helping those in need. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
That's it for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Get online and check us out on Facebook, or keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.